Hi, I'm Dr. Leon Rosenberg, Medical Director of the Center for Emotional Fitness in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. I wrote a book, The Authoritative Guide to Psychiatric Diagnosis. I wrote that book to develop simple ways for anyone and everyone to understand all of the psychiatric diagnoses. I'd like everyone to be an authoritative layman to really understand these diagnoses so people no longer spend on average 10 years having an emotional problem and not understanding what it is. So today, we're going to look at these psychiatric diagnoses one at a time. I'm doing all these tapes in one day, so you see I'll be wearing the same clothes. But today, right now, I'm looking at the diagnosis Dr. Mania. That's the criteria for a bipolar, a manic episode, or a hypomanic episode. So bipolar disorder used to be called manic depressive illness. The manic stands for too happy, too giddy, or too angry, and depression stands for sadness. Some people say they have mood swings, but really they're just going from low to normal. They get depressed and they improve a little, but they never go up too happy, too giddy. That's what bipolar disorder. And unfortunately, once you have a manic episode, you may be chemically prone to have a manic episode again in your life. The same applies for a hypomanic episode. This authoritative guide to psychiatric diagnosis, the reason I called it the authoritative guide is because I took the DSM-4 criteria. That's the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Psychiatric Disorders, the 4th edition, and before too long the 5th edition is going to be out. And I'm looking at those psychiatric diagnoses and trying to explain them simply to anyone, so everyone, as I said before, could be an authoritative layman, really understand these disorders. On average, unfortunately, people wait 10 years if they don't get help right away to go for treatment for a psychiatric problem. So as I said before, we're going to look at the criteria for manic episode or hypomanic episode, which is the Dr. Mania criteria. And here it is. That you can see very well. A manic episode, and Dr. Mania is the copyrighted term I came up for. And as you see at the top, it says, a distinct period of abnormally and persistently elevated or expansive mood with 3 or more of the following, or persistently irritable mood with 4 or more of the following. So what that means is somebody can be in a manic episode, which means 7 days of these Dr. Mania criteria, if they're too happy, too giddy, too full of themselves, too excitable, or they would need 4 of the criteria if they're having just irritability. Not just irritability, but irritability in a way that impairs you. Unfortunately, that's a problem. And just to put this into perspective, there are 13 psychiatric diagnoses that have irritability, and it's often the one that people are least likely to come to help to get. So, once again, we'll look at these criteria, the Dr. Mania criteria, and as you can see, the D criteria is distractibility. So, if I ask somebody, when you were too happy, or when you were too giddy, when you're too excited, were you more distracted than usual? If they say, no, I have ADHD, I said, okay, you have ADHD, but were you more distracted than usual when you had that episode? Yes or no? When you were in that, or somebody else I might ask, when you were in that irritable episode, were your thoughts racing faster than usual? Or did you have flat out ideas, thoughts jumping from one thought to another? The M criteria, were you more talkative than usual? Or did you have pressured speech, talking fast, pressured, very rapid speech, more than usual? The A criteria, agitated motion, or agitated motion, or persistent, or it's hard to read upside down and backwards. Agitated motion, or more goal-directed than usual. So, in other words, they could sit still, they're moving around, they can't sit still, or they're taking on one project, another project, jumping all over, doing a load of different things, more than usual. So they're volunteering for the PTA and going to help all loads of people at school, or work on different projects, or take a second job, or something like that, more than usual. Have these all the things that they're going to come up with in a rapid succession. The next criteria is the end criteria. If the need for sleep is decreased, so that they're not only sleeping less than usual, but they're not tired. So they're getting 4 hours sleep. They may get the same 4 hours when they're depressed, but then they have no energy, but now they're not sleeping well and are not tired at all. The eyes for inflated self-esteem. I'm the greatest, I'm the smartest. You can't tell me what to do, or grandiosity. And the final A is that activity involvement excessive in pleasurable activities that have a high potential for painful consequences. So what that stands for is, at this point in this episode, either they're driving a car fast, spending money they don't have, they're hypersexual, or somebody, for instance, who's no longer using drugs or alcohol suddenly says to themselves, oh, I can drink, I can do drugs, I can do this stuff again, I can handle it, finally I can handle it. So that's the Dr. Mania criteria. Once again, either you need 3 of 7 of those if you're too happy, too giddy, too full of yourself, too excitable. Everything's getting you all excited in a positive way, not in an anxious way, but an excitable, happy way. Or you have persistently irritable mood. Most days, most of the day for 7 days if you're manic, and for only 4 days if you're what's called hypomanic. Mania is also referred to as bipolar 1, hypomania bipolar 2. So, and once you have that episode, you're always considered to have bipolar disorder. Now, bipolar disorder itself is broken down as bipolar disorder, most recent episode, manic, which would be somebody who met that criteria just recently or presently in that criteria for 7 days, or somebody who's been hospitalized for that criteria is referred to bipolar disorder manic, or bipolar disorder most recent episode hypomanic, or bipolar disorder most recent episode depressed, which means you had a major depressive disorder. And look on the video for the disgusted criteria for a major depressive episode, and that shows you how to diagnose a major depressive episode. If you've been hypomanic or manic once, and now you have a major depressive episode, you have bipolar disorder, most recent episode depressed. And if you have, unfortunately, bipolar disorder, if you're in a manic or hypomanic episode and you're depressed at the same time, that's called bipolar disorder mixed. It's important to make these diagnoses correctly, put somebody on appropriate treatment for them. The appropriate treatment works much better than the treatment that might even cause more problems. Thank you for listening. It's Dr. Leon Rosenberg at the Center for Emotional Fitness, 856-857-9500. Our website, www.cfef.com. We're glad to bring you this information from the Authoritative Guide to Psychiatric Diagnosis to try to turn all of you into authoritative laymen to understand these diagnoses. Sometimes knowledge itself is all that's needed. Other times stress management may be helpful. Other times we offer clinical research studies to help advance the field and hopefully get more and more people better at a quicker rate. Thank you very much for listening.